Alright, what's up everybody? Welcome back to more 428 Shibuya Scramble. My name is Raven from the Sky, and let's do this. Standing in the doorway, a man Aichi didn't recognize, his face pale. Wait a minute, I've already... on his cell asking to let Maria in. Okay, yeah, because when we left off, he was headed to the lab. Kano leaned in and whispered in the Kanan's ear, "Are you sure you're okay with this?" With what? I know what you're after, Alfred. Are you sure you want to go to the lab and not... Right now, I want to save Maria. That's all. Her tone was as curt and mechanical as ever, but there was a fierce gleam of determination in her eyes. Maria was clearly someone very special to her. All right, Kano replied. Leave Alfred to me. He thumped himself on the chest. He succeeded this time. He'd succeed this time no matter what the odds. Kano could scarcely recall the whirlwind of events that had brought him here. He'd somehow survived a dozen disasters. Even now, a dear friend was in the hospital at risk of dying. There were times when he'd been ready to give up, and yet, at the end of it all, here he was. His appointment was an international terrorist. I said appointment. His opponent was an international terrorist. No matter how you looked at it, that wasn't a matchup for a mere detective. But I'm going to do it anyway. Rumi, Shizo, Sasayama, and Detective Tatino. I'm going to take down Alfred and save Maria Osawa's life. Just you watch and see. To be continued. Shibuya Scramble. Clear the 1700 time block. Oh boy, are we getting a bad ending? There's that soundtrack. Hang in there, Chaiki. Just keep it together. Minorikawa rushed to her side and offered her a hand. Surely it hardly matters at this point. You're not going to make it on time regardless, Katayama said coldly. And in any case, if 4-star General Gossip doesn't get released, it's Mr. Toyama who's going to be in trouble, not you. I dare say the world would be better off with 1/3 rate gossip ragless anyway. Shut your mouth, Chaiki snapped. If the gossip doesn't come out, I'm going to be in trouble. An article I've written is supposed to be in the next month's issue. It's a piece I've worked on my very hardest on. To the very end. A piece Mr. Mino saw fit to put in print. And so if that goes away, if all of that goes away, yeah, I'll be in trouble, alright. Chaiki's legs wobbled as she struggled to get back to her feet. Chaiki, Katayama said, your zeal is a marvelous thing. Worthy of admiration even. But when it comes to work, results are all that matters. I'm sad to have to put it that way, but I must be honest, it's just common decency. Katayama glanced at his pocket watch. You have 57 minutes and 10 seconds remaining. At this rate, you won't even make it to the interview venue before your time is up. Frankly, I don't think even a further extension of your deadline would make any difference in the end. Damn it! Minorikawa ground his teeth. He wondered if he should just leave Chaiki here and go to the interview SOS by himself. He could expand the article on SOS, then work a small part of Chaiki's interview piece in to at least fill the layout. Right now, the single most important thing was getting the magazine out the door for Toyama's sake. Oh, shoot. But if he did cut most of Chaiki's copy after all she'd done, he might wind up totally killing her passion for being a writer. I have to stop waffling. Professionals don't let their personal feelings dictate their decisions. I can help Chaiki work through her emotional struggles later. Chaiki, that's enough. The young woman got to her feet staggering as she began to climb the stairs. I'm not giving up, she said under her breath. I can't give up now. Though obviously in pain, she struggled to keep her legs moving. Damn, I can't do it. Look how hard she's fighting to stay in the game. I can't tell her I don't need her article now. Releasing the next issue of The Gossip wasn't just going to save Toyama, it would save Chaiki as well. Minorikawa couldn't abandon either one of them, which left him with a hell of a dilemma. He needed to make a decision. If he didn't stop wavering soon, they'd be out of time. But try as he might, he couldn't come up with a plan. Then he heard a familiar voice from behind him. If you're wondering what path to take, allow my taxi to be your guide. Oh! Minorikawa spun around to see Kimizuka standing there. Where to, sir? The driver asked. Despite his polite demeanor, his pride was obvious. Mr. Kimizuka, I appreciate the thought, but this traffic? Traffic? I see nothing of the sort. Okay, sure, but... Minorikawa was well aware of Kimizuka's capabilities, but the prospect of cutting through the chaos that currently filled the streets was more than a little daunting. You know this town as well as I do. There's nowhere you can't go. Alright, what other choice do I have? Guess I've got to trust you. This would be my last request of the day. Minorikawa pointed down the street. Take us to Bride in Harajuku. Take us to the Inferno. Take us to the Labyrinth. Did you have any place in mind? The Inferno. Inferno in Harajuku. The bar? Kimizuka quirked an eyebrow. Yes, something the matter? No, nothing at all. Hurry up and get in. As soon as Minorikawa and the others had climbed into the cab, Kimizuka tore off Shibuya's network of narrow side streets. The passengers in the backseat jostled roughly back and forth to the sound of screeching tires. This is altogether far too excessive, Katayama murmured, wincing as his head bounced repeatedly against the window. To think we allow such inconsiderate driving here in this country. Chaiki, meanwhile, had opened her laptop and was somehow working furiously to finish her copy. The sound of her fingers clicking across the keys echoed within the vehicle. How's it going, Chaiki? Minorikawa asked. Just a little more. Her eyes were glued to her monitor, her face all seriousness. Kimizuka glanced over at Minorikawa. If I may ask, sir, what business do you have at this bar? Just a little interview. I hear a local gang called SOS uses the place as their big hangout. You're interviewing SOS? Sir, I feel it might be best not to get too involved with that lot. There was something about the driver's warning that seemed a little off. Do your taxi driver connections tell you what SOS is up to? Minorikawa asked. Originally, there was something of a vigilant corpse in the name of keeping the neighborhood clean and safe. But lately, I hear nothing but bad things about them. Those loan sharks had said something very similar. Minorikawa reminded himself that he better be on his guard. Katayama chimed in. And just how do you plan to go about interviewing a gang like this? That's nothing for you to worry about. I have a plan. Oh ho. And just what exactly is this plan? It's a secret. Katayama gave him a derisive grin. Clearly he wasn't impressed. Minorikawa turned to look at Chaiki. She appeared too engrossed in her copy to even hear the conversation. I realize this is for work, Kimizuka said worriedly, but do you really need to take such a risk? Yes, I do. Minorikawa thought back to that look on Toyama's face. That look when he finally regained his confidence. He couldn't let Heaven Publishing go under. Toyama provided the canvas on which Minorikawa shared his art with the world. Thinking about it now, Minorikawa realized he'd always been chasing Toyama's shadow. Though it was galling to admit that man had been the ideal Minorikawa strove to live up to. That was why he'd hated seeing Toyama reduced to such a pathetic state. He wanted Toyama to remain indomitable, to keep busting down any and all obstacles in his own peculiar way. Still, Minorikawa wasn't about to voice these feelings aloud. He felt more than a little embarrassed to be taking it all so personally. When you take on a job, you give it 100% every time. That's what makes you a professional, he said. Wouldn't you agree? I do indeed, Katayama chimed in. But you'll have to demonstrate that 100% in the limited time you have left. By the way, is 51 minutes and 30 seconds. And I will not budge in the slightest on that submission deadline. Please do keep that in mind. The man took another look at his watch. I've got half a mind to break that thing, Minorikawa told him. Breaking my watch will not stop time. Minorikawa shot him a fierce glare, but Katayama's composure was unwavering. The guy was unflappable, and the only way Minorikawa was going to be able to put him in his place was to meet his damn deadline. Easier said than done, though. He wanted to use 30 of the 51 minutes. He still had to write his article. It only left him 20 or so to get the material. Kimizuka suddenly slammed on the brakes and the cab skidded to a halt. Minorikawa stared through the windshield in shock and saw a smallish, boxy minivan weaving erratically along the road. "Look out! That thing's heading our way!" "Don't worry, sir," the driver replied. "Just leave this to me." Leaving the school, Kimizuka desperately steered then cleared the oncoming vehicle. As the minivan sped past, an eerily cold breeze waved away from the taxi. The vehicle is being driven by the members of the Wandering Angels Theater Troupe. They're on their way to return the dry ice machine they used in their performance to Indoor Electronics. The machine is malfunctioning, continuously spitting out white plumes of carbon dioxide. The troupe members inside the van are beginning to suffer from oxygen desperation. And they're driving around Shibuya in a daze. Will they be able to make it to Indoor Electronics in the end? What? What the heck was that? Minorikawa asked. "I'm not sure," Kimizuka said. "But let's hurry on our way." Nimbly manipulating the gear stick, he stomped on the gas once more. "Here we are, sir." They pulled up outside of a dilapidated old pool hall. "You're a lifesaver." Minorikawa clapped a hand on Kimizuka's shoulder. "Just be sure to be careful, sir." Minorikawa nodded. "Huh? What?" Chaki asked, looking up. What are we being careful about?" "Nothing," Minorikawa said. "You just wait here in the car. You still got that copy to finish up, yeah?" Well, yes. All right then." Chaki frowned but resumed her typing. "And you wait here too," Minorikawa said to Katayama. "But of course, that goes without saying. Incidentally, you have 49 minutes and 6 seconds remaining." Minorikawa did some quick mental health. With the half hour he'd already set aside, that left him 19 minutes. However dangerous SOS might be, he couldn't afford to hesitate for even a single second. Bracing himself, he stepped out of the taxi and headed for the pool hall. Phew! Minorikawa took a deep breath as he approached the grimy door. Here it goes. He drew his leg back and gave the door a hearty kick. The mob of young men inside the bar turned as one at the sound of the door crashing open. "Who the heck are you?" Several of them started towards belligerently. "Just calm down and hear me out," he said. "I've come to interview you." "Interview us? What the heck for?" These were hot-headed punks, all right. They seemed to be itching for a confrontation. Minokawa felt like a punch might come flying his way at any moment. It just might. Then another voice called out from further back. Hold up, guys. It was a young man seated in the far back corner of the bar. His air of authority marked him as the gang's leader. That must be Susumu then, Minokawa thought. When you say interview, do you mean for TV? Or like a magazine? Mind telling us who you are? The name is Minorikawa. I'm a freelance journalist. I'm doing a magazine piece about young people in Shibuya. All I'm asking is just for you guys to answer a few questions. Huh? Susumu sounded less than enthused. Just 5 minutes, Minorikawa said. What do you say? Nah, I'm not in the best of moods right now. Go on, get it out. Get out of here. Right, Minorikawa thought. It was going to make things difficult. But he hadn't expected these troublemakers to just up and accept an offer to appear in print. Now was when the real battle would begin. Guess I'll just have to write my piece without your help then. Susumu took the bait and shot him a look. Right about what exactly? Your little warehouse raids. Warehouse raids? Susumu raised an eyebrow. What are you talking about? Really now? You're gonna tell me you don't know your boss, your boys are dealing in stolen goods? SOS doesn't steal, man. You don't know what the hell you're talking about. Oh yeah, why don't you ask those two over there? Oh. He spotted the two fellows he'd seen arguing earlier at the scene of the explosion. Now he pointed them out. Their faces betrayed their alarm. Susumu glared at them. Is this true? They averted their eyes and said nothing. I asked you a question. Have you been stealing stuff? After a long moment of surely hesitation, both young men nodded. You idiots! Susumu marched up to the two and without warning decked them both. How dare you sully the SOS name? As the two gang members cowered, he continued to punch them repeatedly. Okay, enough with the beatdown. Minokawa stepped up to intervene. Let's get down to business here. I won't reveal anything about the warehouse raids. In exchange, you give me my interview. How's that? Not a bad deal, I'd say. But Susumu ignored him, continuing his pummeling of the pair. Whoa, hey! Nobody's gonna play nice with the guy who flies off the handle and beats on people, you know. What'd you just say? Well, look at yourself. You're clearly not the cream of the crop here, kid. At that, Susumu's fist finally fell still. The rowdy bar went completely silent. Uh-oh. Say that one more time. I dare you. I'll put your ass in the ground. The gang leader's eyes were red with rage. Minorikawa snorted, unafraid. That's the exact sort of line I expect from a total wuss who's all bark and no bite. Shut your damn mouth! Get the heck out of here. Oh, this is hilarious. SOS top dog is such a yappy little puppy. Susumu snarled like an animal. You son of a gun! I'm gonna beat your ass! Oh! Mr. Mino! I'm all finished. An ebullient voice resounded suddenly through the bar, cheerful and full of energy. Chaiki! Minorikawa looked and saw that both she and Katayama had appeared in the doorway. I finished my copy. Could you please look it over for me? She thrust out her laptop proudly. Susumu stared in bewilderment. Who the hell are you? Oh, I was under the impression you SOS folks were, being interviewed. Chaiki broke off, haltingly. Yeah, you're right about that. One by one, gang members started to close in around her. Well, it's just, you look like you're really angry is all. Oh, do we now? That's because we are pretty angry. Good grief, Katayama groaned. It would seem like getting your interview is quite impossible. By the way, you only have another... You shut up, Minorikawa snapped as Katayama peered at his watch. Just leave this to me. You two hurry up and get out of here. No way, Chaiki said. What? Why not? Because I want you to read my copy. She looked at him right in the eye. This was no time for an editing session. He had to wrap up the SOS interview and fast. He didn't have much of a choice. He'd postpone the interview to read over Chaiki's copy. He understood how she felt, but this place was too dangerous. It was time to get Chaiki and Katayama out of here. To me, it's either A or C. There's no way you're gonna stop, read over hers, and then get back to the interview. It's not enough time. I think I'm gonna go with A. There's no time for editing session. He had to wrap up the SOS interview and fast. All right, Minorikawa said. I'll read it after I'm done with this. No way, Chaiki repeated. You got to be kidding me. I'm not leaving you all by yourself in a place like this. She refused to budge. Enough of the chit-chat. Uh-oh. One of the gang members reached out to grab Chaiki's laptop. Knock it off. Don't touch that. She struggled to resist. Leave the girl alone, you scumbags, Minorikawa barked. The young men in the bar stopped and turned. Susumu was quick to respond. Screw you, man. Who are you calling scumbags here? Any guy who raises a hand to a lady is a scumbag. If you're looking for a fight, you can fight me. Just get your hands off the girl. Minorikawa did his best to look unafraid as a couple dozen vicious gazes now turned back on him. Bring it on, Susumu said. Hey, someone go stand lookout out front. He snapped his fingers sharply. Get him. At the signal, Susumu's men quickly closed in on Minorikawa. Shoot. Oh my god, you can't tell me that B is a choice. He took a hard punch to the face and his vision went blurry. Before he could react, he was hit again twice, thrice with punches and kicks. The moment his first assailant paused, another joined the assault. 4 blows, 5 blows, 6. Minorikawa lost count somewhere around 30. A metallic taste filled his mouth. He could feel his consciousness fading. All the strength was being battered from his body. He couldn't even tell if he was standing on his feet or lying on his back. And finally, he felt himself crumble to the floor. Even then, the beating did not let up. As he looked helplessly, the young man kicked him in the gut over and over. Stop it! Lord Tracky shrieked. You're going to kill him! Bad ending. You can't be serious. It's probably C. I chose A. There's no way that forced himself to go limp. Finally, the kicking stopped. Oh, crap. One of the thugs muttered, standing panically. Did we take this a bit too far? Mr. Mino! Chucky rushed to Minorikawa's side, sobbing. Please, she cried out. Answer me. He held his breath and said nothing. Mr. Mino! Tears streaked down her cheeks as she shook him desperately. Don't worry, he gasped out last, holding up a hand to stave her off. She let out a yelp of surprise, staring at his battered face. He could feel blood trickling from the corner of his mouth. He turned his grisly visage on the gang members as he painfully rose to his feet. What? Wahaha! Abruptly, Minorikawa broke into peals of mocking laughter. Mr. Mino? Chucky stared at him aghast. Wahaha! He only laughed the harder. It seems that he took a few too many blows to the head. The poor thing. Katayama averted his eyes, unable to watch. Wahaha! Minorikawa shot out an accusing finger out at the crowd. Looks like I win this round. What? Susumu blinked, dumbstruck. Don't you get it? Minorikawa said thickly around his bruised tongue. What I'm saying, you're a bunch of idiots. Now then, you'll pardon me. Oh, I get it. Minorikawa was halfway to the exit when Katayama's exclamation rang out. You were planning all along to let these guys beat you up, huh? Minorikawa jerked to a halt, his shoulders trembling. You knew they'd turn down the interview, and so by letting yourself get beat up, you have something to put in an article, yeah? It's a bit bogus, maybe, but I guess it's one way to get material to fill your pages. Get out! I surely thought this was a bad ending. Minorikawa broke out into a cold sweat. Shut up, you idiot. But Katayama continued with his oh-so-brilliant analysis. You sure pulled a fast one on this gang here. I wonder what sort of headline your piece should have. The twilight of Shibuya's legendary street crew. Former vigilante squad, now mere gang of common thugs. Something like that, maybe? Susumu stared daggers at Minorikawa. Go on, I dare you to write that up. Then we really will put your ass in the ground. He moved to block the path to the door, clutching a broken beer bottle in one hand. You moron, Minorikawa bellowed at Katayama. I was this close to pulling it off. Oh well, that's a shame, isn't it? Katayama replied. Minorikawa rolled his eyes. Gee, you think? Susumu slowly advanced on a beer bottle at the ready. Incidentally, Katayama said, you have 40 minutes and 7 seconds left. Good luck. Minorikawa hung his head. Was everything futile at this point? Uh-oh. Hopeless, pointless, ineffectual. Not to be confused with feudal, which refers to socio-political system of the Middle Ages involving lords and vassals and fiefdoms. All right, cool your jets. I'd say that's quite enough. Susumu stopped and spun around. Kimizuka had entered the bar. The taxi driver stared out sternly from behind his sunglasses. All the young men in the bar fell silent. Minorikawa and his companions exchanged glances. Oh man, you? Susumu's face twisted up awkward embarrassment. Kimizuka's tone was light and playful, but intimidating nevertheless. Whoa, hey now. That's no way to address your teacher. Teacher? Minorikawa blurted in disbelief. Kimizuka nodded. Yeah, until last year I used to be a teacher. But but I got into a bit of a dispute with my school, so I moved on. These guys in here are all former students of mine. Sorry that there's such a bunch of good-for-nothings. Wow, Chaiki said. Would have never guessed. I thought since I wasn't their teacher anymore, it wasn't my place to butt in, but I couldn't sit idly by and let one of my customers take a beating. Kimizuka turned back to Susumu. This guy totally played you, every last one of you. Susumu bit his lip in frustration. Still, it's hard to imagine anyone would want to take a beating from this many guys all at once. So it's hardly your fault for falling for it. Kimizuka had switched gears from taxi driver to street smart mentor. You guys lost this one, he said, and for that, you need to give him his interview. No way, Susumu looked disgusted. Look here, kid, Kimizuka said. Let yourself save some face and help the man out, and maybe you won't come off as a bunch of total idiots in this article. He flashed an amiable grin. Well, when you put it that way, fine, all right. Susumu blew out his breath in resignation. Susumu, you can't just let yourself cave like that. The remark had come from a particularly nasty-looking young fellow who slouched on the bar sofa. Minorikawa recognized him, the kid he'd encountered earlier that afternoon wandering around with a wooden kujigo. You shut up, Kiru, Susumu said. So what, you just gonna let SOS make a mockery of itself? Kiru demanded. The gang leader let out an annoyed growl, but said nothing. And you still think you've got what it takes to run Shibuya? Shut up. I've already said I'll do it. Kiru sneered suddenly at Susumu's outburst. Mr. Mino! Minorikawa was just letting out a sigh of relief at being able to get his interview when Chaiki scurried back up to him. Please, can you read my copy now? Her face showed a strange mixture of confidence and unease. All right, he said resignedly, let me see it. The proofing deadline was drawing steadily nearer. Still, if the piece wasn't good enough, he'd have to make her rewrite it again. He wasn't going to compromise on quality. Bracing himself, Minorikawa stared at the monitor. Chaiki swallowed hard, so anxious that it was audible. How's that a computer don't overheat with all that stuff on? Look at all that stuff she got on it. The computer can't breathe. Minorikawa gave the piece a fast one-over, then read it again more closely. When he was done, he closed his eyes, considering. Chaiki held her breath, waiting for his response. Here we go. It's okay. She looked back at him blankly for a long moment. Really? It's really okay. Is it really, really okay? It really is really okay. Minorikawa watched in surprise as she broke down in tears. Oh, thank you so much. Chaiki bowed profusely. He gave her an affectionate little ruffle atop her head. She wiped her face with her palms, scrubbing the tears away. So I guess I never really told you what sort of articles I want to write and all. No, I don't think you have. Well, I mean, I want to write socially conscious exposes like you do, Mr. Mino. And so to hear you say that an article I wrote is okay, that makes me really, happy, I guess. Or maybe moved. Her eyes were still bright with emotion. Well then, really? There was actually another writer who took inspiration from his work and who strove to be like him. Minorikawa had never thought a day like this would come. It was a peculiar feeling. He'd always been the follower, chasing after interviews in order to be more like Toyama. Made him feel both bashful and proud that the skill and soul he'd honed might be passed on to the next generation. Right, I should be off. Kimizuka gave Minorikawa a slight nod. Minorikawa returned the gesture, but more deeply. You really have been a tremendous help today. I'm not sure where I'd even be right now if you hadn't been there for me. Oh no, not at all. I was just driving a customer around to where he asked me to go. Oh, that's right. I still owe you a fare. Opening his wallet, Minorikawa saw he had a 10,000 yen bill. Still now was no time to be frugal. Keep the change, he said as he handed it over. But even as he said it, Kimizuka already handed him some money back. Here, I insist. The driver had already counted out the exact change in advance. You really are a pro, huh? Minorikawa took the money and stuffed it in his pocket. We'll meet again, somewhere out there on the streets of Shibuya. Kimizuka pointed his index finger at Minorikawa's face. Minorikawa responded in kind. After that, the interview with SOS went off without a hunch. Now that the tension was diffused, these were just a bunch of ordinary young guys. The juxtaposition of their appearance and their behavior would make for an interesting piece. So about what you say earlier, Susumu said, once Minorikawa had finished his questioning. How about I'm not the cream of the crop? Ah, yeah, that. I just said to get you worked up. Don't worry about it. Well, let me just ask you what you really think then. How do you think I could be a better leader? I don't know. I'm not really the sort of guy who wants to stand at the top, you know. But I guess I can tell you two things that'll make things more smoothly with you and your buddies. Susumu leaned in, listening intently. Forgiveness. And also trust. Minorikawa chewed over his own words. The events of the day replayed in the back of his mind. He'd forgiven Toyama for his faked suicide and trusted that he'd regained his reporter's edge. He'd forgiven Chaiki for her bungled interviews. That's true. And trusted that she'd grow as a journalist. That's true, yep. In the end, that is what had helped him through the forgiveness, followed by trust. Yep. Susumu grumbled softly. Forgiveness and trust, Tom. Doesn't sound so easy. People gravitate towards somebody who can handle things when they get tough. With that, Minorikawa got to his feet. Now we've got all the articles we need covered. Chaki rushed over to his side. Well, I guess we still need Mr. Toyama's piece. I just got off the phone with my office, Katayama said casually. Seems they've already received the data from him. Whoa, what? Guess he really can get the job done. When he applies himself, Minorikawa felt an inner surge of pride. Now then, indicated Katayama. How much time do we have left? 30 minutes remaining, Katayama replied, eyeing his watch. 30 minutes, huh? Looks like we might make it after all. Chaiki's laptop. Right. With a beaming grin, Chaiki held out her computer. Minorikawa got ready to start typing. But then a young man barged into the bar. Aichi, do we switch? No! Oh, not yet. The newcomer hurried over to where Susumu was sitting and promptly prostrated himself on the floor. Whatever this was about, it looked like a big deal. Who was this kid? The gang's feelings looked decidedly mixed. I need people to bring a guy down. I'm here to ask for your help. I know I have no right to ask you this, but please, I really need your help. As Minorikawa listened to the young man's conversation with Susumu, he could feel his blood start pumping. It sounded like they were talking about the terrorist plot in which Shibuya had become embroiled. Hey, Chaki, he said quietly. Did you hear that just now? I did. I'm not sure I follow all of it, but definitely has the whiff of a major scoop. Minorikawa shot her a daring grin. So what's the play here, Chaki? We interviewed him, of course. But we only have 30 minutes left, right? So we'll take 10 minutes for our conversation and use the remaining 20 to write up the piece. I'll help you out. You learned good, kiddo. You learned... Minorikawa ruffled Chaki's hair again. They both blushed profusely, gripped by a surge of excitement. Why are you doing this? I can't make any sense of it whatsoever. Katayama stood peering at them skeptically. If you write up the piece you just did your interview for, you'll make your deadline. Why go out of your way to trouble yourself further? It's no trouble, Minorikawa said. I'm just doing what a professional does. That's all. Katayama let out a solemn sigh. Good grief. He looked at his pocket watch again and snapped it shut. Well, if you aren't concerned about the time, then do as you like, I suppose. I'll admit, you've made me quite curious to read this magazine you're putting together. Minorikawa and Chaki rolled their eyes as they turned away. Already, they were making their way over to Susumu and his gang. The interviews aren't over until you have what you need. You refuse to let them be over, you spend every last second you have to do the best job you can. That's what being a professional journalist is all about. Minorikawa cracked his knuckles and stepped between the two young men. Sounds like you've got an interesting story. Mind letting us hear it too? Wow. All right, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks for watching. My name is Raven from the Sky. If you enjoyed the episode, drop a like and subscribe to the channel and the series grow. Take care, and I'll catch you guys in the next episode. Peace.